All right, guys, welcome. Let's get this presentation loaded here, see if it comes up. All right, there it is. So, give me an hour. The next hour, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about what does the science really say when it comes to the flu shot. And just let me give you a little backstory of why this is extra important to me. I mean, for one, I'm obsessed with health and performance, and it's just what I really love to do. I mean, 24/7, I'm just working on how to eat, how to exercise, how to make people healthier, right? And well, my wife's a nurse, and when she was pregnant, two things. One is the hospital. They require their staff to get the flu shot, the ones that were with patients, or wear a mask for a few months. So I'm like, well, I mean, come on. What does the evidence really show? Like, is it really necessary that my wife can be made to get a flu shot like that? But then she was pregnant, and that was really concerning for me. So now they want to give her a flu shot because she was pregnant, so that it was extra good, and because she's a worker, and all this. It bothered me. So I really want to dig into this and get to what does the science really say? I want to do what's best for my family, and I want to do what's best based on what the evidence says, not based on what I'm told, because a lot of times what you're told, the evidence just doesn't really support it. So that's what this presentation is all about. And I promise you, by the end of this webinar, you're going to know more about vitamin D and the flu shot than most healthcare providers do, because I've spoken to a lot of them, and a lot of them, it's crazy. They just give the same advice over and over, and I ask for, why, and I just don't get the answers that I think that we should. All right, so here's my goal is by the end of this webinar, I want you to have confidence. I want you to know that you're making the right decision for you and your family. All right. And make sure you stay to the end, because each slide kind of builds to the end. And so when you get part of the story, then you're kind of misinformed. So each slide just keeps building. And within the next hour, you're going to have a whole stack of information. So like I said, by the end, you just feel like, you know what, I know I'm doing the best thing for my family. And I'm going to promise you, I'm going to keep this under an hour, because I've had a lot of college courses. And I just thought that any class over an hour was way too long, because it's really hard to pay attention for an hour straight. So make sure you stay to the end, right? And at the end, I got a happy ending, because there's really good evidence-based things you can do to not only prevent the flu, but the cold and many other sicknesses out there for you and your kids without any risk of any sort of negative side effects whatsoever. So make sure you stay to the end to get that. Close the distractions, right? Shut off your Facebook, turn off your cell, let's just focus. Give me 1 hour of your time. And let's go over this extremely important topic, because it's going to be good. And at the end, again, I just want you to have the unwavering confidence that you're making the right choice for yourself and your family, because there's going to be people spewing different opinions at you. But how often are these opinions based on really digging into the data and looking at research? Almost never. This is a really, this is one topic that a lot of times I like to just kind of steer away from, because people have really strong beliefs one way or another. And sometimes people get mad, and it's like, well, my goal is just to give objective information and show you where my viewpoints come from based on the objective information. And it's very important that you keep an open mind, right? Like I say, we got these strong belief systems, and one skill that a lot of people are lacking these days, it seems, is being able to change their viewpoints or their beliefs when new information warrants it. It's this thing called cognitive dissonance, where you have a strong belief, and then new information proves that belief system to be incorrect. And instead of reevaluating our beliefs and looking at the new information, we get pissed off, and then we want to fight. And you see it all over nowadays. It's like, instead of just having discussion and looking at evidence, we get mad and want to fight. Let's not do that. Let's just look at the evidence. And again, by the end of this hour, after I lay this out, you're going to know. You're just going to know that you're making the right choice. So if you look at this, we're going to go over some studies, right? Because that's what studies are, what recommendations should be based on. If you look at the bottom, let's see if this overlay thing here works. But you can see down here, I have all the references listed for each slide, so that's very important. But so what does the study say? So a meta-analysis of 20 case studies they found that flu shots reduced winter deaths by 50% on average. In a more recent study, there were a 47% reduction in all causes of death among elderly during the flu season. So not only did they claim the flu shot reduced flu deaths, but all causes of death by 47%. And that sounds freaking amazing. Of course, you'd want to get a shot that's reducing all causes of death by 47%. And then we found that flu shots reduced all-cause mortality among permanent members by 4.6%. So that was their vaccine effectiveness estimate over 9 different laboratory-defined flu seasons. So this is important. Why is this important? Let's go to the next slide. So what they showed was, so this excess mortality of 7.8% is what we found in a population with 60% vaccine coverage. Their findings suggest had none of the elderly been vaccinated, so 60% got vaccinated, excess mortality of 7.8%. They found that had none of them been vaccinated, the excess mortality would have been 9.8%. So what they did is they took the vaccine effectiveness estimate right down here. Oh, get out of the way. Right down here. And they divided it by this number, the 9.8, to get the 47%. It's like, how in the hell does that make any sense? Well, it doesn't, right? That is what you would call, that's the relative difference. So they report the relative difference instead of the absolute difference. That's what's most important. So the absolute difference, and this was based on their estimates in a population where the most likely to die are not vaccinated, and the least likely to die are vaccinated. So it's like, so the people that are most likely to die don't get the vaccine, and then they die, and then they blame it on the vaccine. But the true number, is 9.8 versus 7.8 is 2%, right? That's the absolute risk. They reported the relative risk, which is 47%. And this is why, like, media headlines and study abstracts are often so useless, because you have to look in the study to know how they came up with their conclusions, right? And unfortunately, this is legal, and it happens all the time in research where they report the relative risk and not the true numbers, the absolute risk. Let's look at some more studies. 10 randomized controlled trials assessed the trivalent influenza vaccine, which means the flu shot, during 12 seasons, right? 8 of these seasons showed significant efficacy, and 4 did not. But the significant efficacy is based on relative numbers, not absolute. So when we look at the absolutes in this study, so the point estimate efficacy for all flu, right, was 63.2% for one, and the other one 46%. So again, you think that sounds really good. How do they come up with those numbers? 1.2 versus 3.2, it's an absolute difference of 2%. The relative was 63%. In this one, it was 0.6 versus 1.2. for an absolute difference of 0.6%, not what they reported. See how huge of a difference that is? So what happens is a lot of health professionals, they just see this, the 46% and 63%, and think, oh my gosh, this is really good. We need to be giving this to everybody. But it's clever math. It's fudging the data. In this study, vaccine, again, the studies are all listed below. Vaccine efficacy, 67% and 61.5%, we'll say. How do they get those numbers? Once again, if you look at the absolute difference, it's actually 1.9%. And if you look at the absolute difference down here, again, 2%. And here's what's really, really frustrating. This is legal, right? It shouldn't be legal, but this is legal. So some authors will use relative benefits like this, right? The relative, to make it look better than it is. And then if the side effects are bad, right, if there's a lot of negative side effects from whatever the treatment is, they'll use absolute numbers to minimize the side effects. That's legal, right? It's criminal. It's intentionally misleading, but it's legal, right? It's so, I think part of this stuff is it's so hard to believe that people think, oh, that just can't be true. There's no way it could be, but it is. This is the truth. It's unbelievable. Let's go to the next slide. On another study, this study concludes that the flu shots results in a 60% reduction of the flu. How do they get those numbers? The actual results were that 3% of unvaccinated group got the flu and 2% of the vaccinated got the flu. So without vaccination, 97% remained flu-free. With vaccination, it was 98% flu-free, which means a 1% difference. That's it, just 1%. That's the truth. And here's it. I'm going to get to something to show you that the 1 and 2% benefit it's really not even that good. Get that line. So first, although few randomized trials have been completed, no trial data supports a mortality benefit with the flu shot. All right. So this is, think about that's it. Like no deaths more. So second, okay. Over the last 2 decades in the United States, even while vaccination rates among the elderly have increased from 15 to 65%, there has been no decrease in hospital admissions or mortality. So flu shot rates have increased dramatically, and there has been no decrease in hospital admissions or mortality. You would think that if the flu shot really works, right, and more people are getting it, less people would be dying. But what they found that is, in fact, both admission rates and mortality have increased with increased vaccine coverage over time. So how can you possibly recommend this to people 65 and older when the study right here show that as the more people are getting it, more people are getting sick and dying? So, and last, this is what I was talking about. The 1 to 2% isn't really 1 to 2%, but last, studies that are better able to adjust health and functional status and measures of frailty, right, reduce that effect. So what does measures of frailty mean? Let's explain it. This phenomenon has been referred to as frailty bias or the healthy user effect. And what that is people that are more health conscious, healthier people that choose to eat better and exercise are more likely to do things that are thought to be healthy. They're the ones that are more likely to go and get the flu shot. The sicker people are the ones that are less likely to get the flu shot. So on average, healthier people are the ones getting the flu shot. Sicker people, the ones that are most likely to get the flu and have complications from the flu, aren't getting the flu shot. And then they're getting those things and they're saying it's because they didn't get the flu shot. So if you don't even factor in the healthy user effect, what we've seen previously, that it's only 1 to 2%. But if we factor in the healthy user effect, it's actually less than that. So vaccine coverage, this is, again, right from the study, vaccine coverage peaked in people whose predicted probability of death during the upcoming flu year was 3 to 7%. So people at a very low chance of death had the most vaccines. But the vaccine rate fell below 50%, and those whose probability of death was over 30. So the people who were most likely to die weren't getting the flu shot. And then when they die, they say it's because they didn't get the flu shot. And then now that everybody needs to get the flu shot. So this study down here, what is their conclusion? We conclude that frailty selection, or the healthy user effect, and the use of non-specific endpoints such as all-cause mortality have led studies to greatly exaggerate the flu shot benefits. And again, I just want to over and over, it's this, whenever you see the quotations, right, that's not my opinion. That's directly pulled from the research. So every year, large-scale campaigns in many developed countries are undertaken to vaccinate all people aged 65 years or older to prevent serious illness or mortality. I mean, what's the point of getting the flu shot? Not really to prevent you from getting the flu. It's to prevent you from getting seriously sick and dying from the flu, right? There are no randomized controlled trials showing that the flu shot works in people over 65. Let me read that again. There are no trials showing the flu shot works in people over 65. And what are they going to do? They're going to go and give it to everybody in the nursing home. They're going to recommend everybody over 65 get the flu shot when, again, no studies show that it works, right? This is from the Cochrane database. If you haven't heard of this, if you're a health professional especially, you have to know who this is, because unfortunately, so much research is it's funded by people who are making money on the results, and so much of it is bad. I mean, it's insane how corrupt a lot of the research is. So with these guys, they know this. So they created the Cochrane database, and they review research, and they don't accept any funding, right? So it's good. This is the best, most ethical, honest group you're going to find. The books written by the guys who are part of this collaboration are absolutely amazing. But according to them, the available evidence is of poor quality and provides no guidance regarding the safety, efficacy, or effectiveness of the flu shot for people 65 years or older. So if you are over 65, if your parents, if your grandparents, if you know anybody over 65 and they want to give them the flu shot, ask, well, what does the evidence say? It says it doesn't work, right? That's what the evidence says. So And they know it doesn't work, right? So what do they decide to do? Is they decide to come up with Fluzone, which is a quadruple dose of the flu shot, right? So like if one isn't working, we need to give them more. And then the study results said, holy shit, it's 24% more effective. Well, where did this 24% come from? So they studied 32,000 people. 1.89% of people who got the regular flu shot got the flu versus 1.43% of the quadruple flu shot. See that? So what do? They did the relative risk, right? 100, do some math, and you get 24%. What is the actual difference, the absolute? 0.46%. So what does that really mean is 217 people need to get the quadruple flu shot, right, to prevent one case of flu-like symptoms. That's a lot of money spent and a whole lot of potential side effects to prevent one case of flu-like symptoms. And then, I mean, doesn't that make you mad, right? It's such a huge difference. If you just seen 24% more effective, you think, oh, wow, that's pretty good. It's actually 0.46%, which is just insignificant. It's meaningless. Let's clear that out. Let's just this story that I found extremely interesting. I don't know, maybe you guys find it interesting. So I put it in here, but it's from the book of A Short History of Nearly Everything. Really good book if you like history like I do. But there was in the 1918 during the flu pandemic, where it was really bad. A lot of people were dying from the flu. They're trying to test vaccines. So like, well, they went to this prison. They said, if anyone volunteers to get this flu to test the vaccine on, they'll be pardoned. So 300 people actually volunteered. And they took 62 in the study. So what they did is they injected with infected lung tissue and sprayed these infected aerosols to these prisoners, and none of them got sick. And then they took a throat swab straight from people with this lethal flu, and they were sticking it in the mouths of the prisoners, and none of them got sick. So then finally, they just had the prisoners through their open mouth while sick people coughing and spit in their mouths, which is just freaking disgusting. And not one of them got sick. But oddly enough, the doctor trying to do this study got sick and died. It's like, geez, just a crazy story of the thing only 100 years ago. Like, what a crazy study that was allowed to be done. So in 1960, the U.S. Surgeon General responds to substantial morbidity and mortality during the, it's a little typo there, but during the 1957-58 flu pandemic, recommended annual flu shots for individuals with chronic debilitating disease, people over 65, and pregnant women. This recommendation was made without data, right? This recommendation was made without data for efficacy or effectiveness in these populations. So they had no data showing that this helped, but that was the recommendation. So because of this longstanding public recommendation, the elderly and other high-risk groups like pregnant women have been excluded from placebo-controlled trials in the USA for the past 50 years. So this is what it is. It's like, well, this is what we've always been doing, so let's just keep doing it. Why study it? That's what's going on. So this is when they say recommend a flu shot for pregnant women. There's no evidence to support that. There's none. It's so it drives me crazy when they say, oh, evidence-based medicine, evidence-based care. Bullshit. There is no evidence to support that. So how can you do it? I mean, like, show you won't find any evidence that shows giving a flu shot to pregnant women. And actually, it just came out. I should add to this because it just came out. A correlation between getting a flu shot in pregnant women and miscarriages. That's scary. So why, even if there's the risk of it, why do it when there's no evidence to show benefit? Recent excess mortality studies were unable to confirm a decline in flu-related mortality since 1980, even as vaccine coverage has increased from 15 to 65%. So this is, again, a repeat of the study before, but as more people are getting the flu shot, there's no decrease in the flu. Oddly enough, whereas those studies that attribute 5% of all winter deaths to the flu, many studies report a 50% reduction in all deaths, right? Well, how can that be if 5% of deaths are from the flu, but then studies will claim the flu shot reduces deaths by 50%? What? Because they use relative versus absolute. Somehow the flu shot reduces all these kind of deaths that aren't even related to the flu. So what about the flu shot for healthy people? So in the odd year that the flu the flu virus strains that they just randomly pick and put in the flu shot, and that in the odd instance that they actually match what's actually going on in the community, 4% of unvaccinated people versus 1% of vaccinated people develop flu-like symptoms, not complications or death, just flu-like symptoms. It's a 3% difference. In the common year, when there's poor vaccine matchings, it's between 2 and 1%, so 1% difference. So in average conditions, a partial matching year, 100 people need to go get the flu shot to avoid one set of flu-like symptoms, right? And that's not even factoring in the healthy user effect that we talked about before, which is so important. Vaccination had no effect on hospital admissions or flu complication rates. There is no evidence that vaccines affect complications such as pneumonia or transmission. Wow. In healthy people under 65, right? That's my demographic. Flu shots do not affect hospital stay, time off work, or death from flu or its complications. So in healthy people under 65, flu shots did nothing. And that's from the study right here, not my opinion. What about kids? Now, this is the most important slide of the entire presentation, in my opinion, because who really gives a shit about me? What matters is my kid and your kids and kids, right? So here's you can see my little man right here, and he's not that little anymore. It's crazy how fast they grow. But at 6 months, they want to inject him with a flu shot. So what does the evidence say? There are no trials showing efficacy of the flu shot in kids aged 2 to 17 years old. No trials showing that it works in kids 2 to 17. So why would you recommend the flu shot to kids between 2 and 17 when there are no trials showing that it works? In children under 2 years, flu shots had the same effect as placebo. All right, we'll give my kid the placebo because it has the same effect. Now, this part should make you really mad, and I just want you to know this is from the Cochrane database, right? The gold standard. This isn't from me. This isn't my opinion. This is quotes directly from them. Flu shots in children aged 2 years or younger are not significantly more efficacious than placebo. The review showed that reliable evidence on influenza vaccines is thin, but there's evidence of widespread manipulation of conclusions and spurious notoriety of the studies. Holy shit. So there's reliable evidence on the flu vaccines is thin, but there's widespread manipulation. Like, if that doesn't piss you off, I don't know what does. So there's widespread manipulation of conclusions, which they're fudging data, and then they're giving our kids shots based on manipulation of data. You remember absolute versus relative, and there's a lot of things that are much, much worse than that. But if this doesn't upset you, I mean, it infuriates me. Right. So why would they want to? This is what the research says. This is from the Cochrane database, man. This is the gold standard. This isn't my opinion. So why would you ever take your kids in for a flu shot when this is what the evidence says? Right. I mean, honestly, I wish the damn thing worked. Right. I wish it was so simple. I could go in, give my kid a shot, and he wouldn't get sick. And there's no chance of side effects or any potential harm from the shot. It's just not the case, though. And it's just, I mean, just look at what the evidence shows. What about healthcare workers? What about all the nurses and all the CNAs and all the people in the hospitals that are forced to get a flu shot because they claim that they don't want their workers to be spreading the flu to sick people? So the studies found that vaccinating healthcare workers who look after the elderly, right, the most risk, the highest risk group in long-term care facilities, did not show any effect on specific outcomes of interest, namely lab-proven flu, pneumonia, or deaths from pneumonia. So what does it do? And this is, again, Cochrane. So what does giving flu shots to the workers prevent? Nothing. Absolutely. The Hippocratic oath of at first do no harm. So you have the potential harm from the stuff, the ingredients in a flu shot when there's no proven benefit. And the flu shot, it's infallible, right? Just the belief systems of people. And here's how it goes. If you say I got the flu shot and I didn't get the flu, people are like, well, of course, it must have been the flu shot. Well, I got the flu shot and I got sick right away. Well, it can't be from the flu shot. I disagree, right? So the virus within the flu shot itself, or the viruses, are dead. You can't get sick from those dead viruses. But the adjuvants in the flu shot, in the thimerosal, which we'll get to in a bit, that does affect your immune system. And that can suppress your immune system. If something suppresses your immune system, you're more likely to get sick from the hundreds of other rhinovirus, aka cold viruses, or flu viruses that are floating around. So no, you can't get sick from the dead viruses within the flu shot, but the flu shot can affect your immune system, making you more susceptible to getting other viruses and getting sick from other things, like the adjuvant squalene, for example. But we'll get to that. But another claim is, I got the flu shot and got the flu later. Well, you'd have been sick longer had you not gotten the flu shot. There's no evidence to support that. I hate it when people say that. There's absolutely nothing that says, well, you'd have been more sick had you not gotten the flu shot. You can't say that. I didn't get the flu shot and I didn't get the flu, right? Well, you should be glad people around you got the flu shot to protect you. It's not that I take care of myself and eat good and have a really healthy lifestyle and a high immune system and take good immune boosting supplements. It's just, it's the people around me that protected me. I didn't get the flu shot and I got the flu. Well, that's what happens when you don't get the flu shot. Here's a good thing is, over 80% of the time, right, the symptoms you have are you actually have a cold. So too often I'll hear people like, oh, I got the flu. And I'll ask them, well, did you get tested? I'm like, well, no, but the symptoms, you can't tell based on symptoms because the symptoms are the same. You cannot. And 80% of the time when you think you have the flu, you actually have a cold. So unless you've been tested, right, there's a very good chance you got a cold virus. And once we get to the end, I'm going to give you some really good tips that'll help not only protect you from influenza virus, but also help protect you from cold viruses. So you're pretty much bulletproof to all the bad guys floating around. So flu vaccines do not prevent pneumonia. So this thing, you need to get the flu shots. That way you don't get the flu, because then you can get pneumonia, blah, 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 blah. So anyhow, influenza vaccination was not associated with the reduced risk of community-acquired pneumonia. Pneumonia causes the vast majority of seasonal deaths associated with the flu. Of the 36,000 deaths they like to claim the flu causes, it's actually 34,000 of them are actually from pneumonia. And the thing is, pneumonia occurs in equal frequency in vaccinated and non-vaccinated citizens. Flu vaccines do not prevent pneumonia. Flu shots do not prevent death from flu or pneumonia. Not my opinion, from this study. So the National Vital Statistics Report compiled by the CDC shows that only 1,138 deaths occur a year due to the flu alone. In 2001, it was only 257 people. In 2002, it was only 727 people. And I don't want to, minimize any death, right? If someone dies close to you, it's a huge deal. So these are all a very big deal. But it's not the 36,000 that people are marked to believe. And it's such a small number to vaccinate 300 million people, everyone 6 months and older, for this very, very small amount in the grand scheme of things. I mean, just put these numbers in perspective. On average, about 6,200 people die every day. I mean, on average, 91 people die every day, every single day, because of painkillers. Right? Painkillers are killing 91 people a day. This is 257 people in a year. I mean, where's the massive media campaigns to get people off pain pills because it's killing them? Or diabetes? Where are the massive campaigns to ban sugary drinks? It's just crazy. The flu vaccine does not prevent pneumonia or heart disease. And the sickest cardiovascular patients don't get vaccinated, and then their deaths are attributed to lack of flu vaccine. So it's just crazy how they how they twist things to somehow mean, you should have gotten the flu shots for somehow. So each year, the CDC mounts this well-orchestrated campaign to generate interest and demand for flu shots. Like right now, right? There's posters everywhere and flyers everywhere. And there's going to come out, a lot of times they like to come out with some scary name on it, like swine, or they'll give it some animal name and say, this year's going to be a bad year. Make sure you go and get your flu shot. This one's going to be bad. Every year, it's the same thing. And they'll say the flu vaccine is the best defense against the flu. Based on what? What evidence? I just showed what the evidence says. And the other thing that's really important is, like, nobody, not even the most educated immunologist in the world, understands or can describe the complete cascade of events that occurs after injecting the flu shot into you or into a baby. I mean, our immune system is so amazing and so complex. Nobody understands everything that's going on. It's just crazy to me. So where do these guidelines come from, right? Who comes up with this stuff? So the CDC's 15-member advisory committee on immunization practices makes recommendations each year based, on who should be vaccinated. So for the 99-2000 season, the committee recommended that people over 65, right, with no evidence to support it, and children with medical conditions get the flu shot. So that was 74 million people need it. The next year, the committee lowered the age to 50. That's another 41 million people added to the list. And then they lowered the age more and they lowered the age more. And now, ever since 2012, the recommendation is every citizen over 6 months of age, about 300 million people get the flu shot. So everyone, why 6 months? What's that based on? There's no evidence. Where's the dose you get at 6 months? Is the dose at 6 months smaller than at 6 years versus 16 years versus 60 years? Does body weight matter? Does a 100-pound woman get a half dose and a 200-pound man get a full dose? Like, there's so many questions. Or does everybody get the exact same thing, right? Or, where do these guidelines come from? What evidence did they use? So we've looked very carefully at conflicts of interest. This is from this study right here, the Federal Advisory Committee Act. We've taken a good hard look at whether the pharmaceutical industry has too much influence over these committees. From the evidence we found, we believe that they do. How confident in the safety and need for specific vaccines would doctors and parents be if you learn the following? The chair of the FDA and CDC advisory committees who made these decisions own stock in drug companies that make the flu shots. Individuals on both advisory committees own patents for vaccines under consideration or are affected by decisions by the committees. So these committees people are making money based on their decisions on the committee. That's not a good thing. That's where these crazy recommendations come from. So here are the summary points. Public policy worldwide recommends the use of the flu shot to prevent seasonal outbreaks. Evidence from systematic review shows that the flu shot has little or no effect on the effects measured. There is little comparative evidence on the safety of these vaccines, right? You think people are just like, oh, there's thousands of studies showing they're safe. No, there's not. There's little evidence that exists on the safety of these vaccines. Reasons for the current gap between policy and evidence are unclear, but it's given the huge resources involved, re-evaluation should be urgently undertaken. Absolutely, it should be. So how is the flu, how many people really know where the flu shot comes from? So each year, the influenza virus is always mutating and changing. So they go and take an educated guess of what they think the 3 most common strains are going to be for the upcoming fall, winter. And then those strains are collected and injected into live chicken embryos, into chicken eggs. So that way the virus can grow within the little chickens. And then all the juice is sucked out and separated, right? And that's why if you have an egg allergy, the flu shot, it shouldn't be done. But all that virus is sucked out. And then preservers are used to protect vaccines packed in multi-dose vials. So flu vaccines in multi-dose vials contain thimerosal to safeguard against contamination of the vial. Thimerosal is a mercury-containing organic compound, right? Mercury is a very, very toxic compound. I don't think it's wise to inject this compound into my 6-month-old baby when, as I showed, there's absolutely no evidence that it does any better than a placebo. Why would I do that? Why would I inject this into myself when there's when the evidence shows that it's a 1 to 2% protection, but that's not even factoring the healthy user effect. Then within the shot, they also have an adjuvant called squalene, which is an ingredient added to a vaccine to create a stronger immune response to the vaccination. So this is why I think it's possible to get sick from the flu shot, because you're getting this thimerosal, which is a mercury immune suppressor, but then you're getting this adjuvant, which creates a strong immune response. So you may have an immune response, maybe not to the 3 dead strains within the shot, but one of the hundreds of cold and other strains that are constantly around us. And this is also why some studies aren't truly placebo controlled. It's like you have one group of people, the active ingredient plus all these other ingredients, and then the placebo group will get all these other ingredients. So you can't tell if the active group has had more side effects, because the placebo group is going to get side effects from all the nasty stuff that's in the quote unquote placebo. It's just crazy. So let's talk about Let's talk about Tamiflu really quick. Because Tamiflu The government has spent billions of dollars stockpiling Tamiflu, right? So Tamiflu is given to people after they get the flu, or sometimes as a prophylactic before they get the flu, because it's supposed to make them better. But what is the evidence? Here's what the even Tamiflu claims. The review confirms small benefits on symptom relief, namely shortening the duration of symptoms by half a day. So what does that mean? It means if you're going to be sick 7 days, instead you'll be sick 6.5 days. But according to the Cochrane collaboration, we now have the most robust comprehensive review on Tamiflu that exists. Initially thought to reduce hospitalizations and serious complications from influenza, the review have not proven to do this. And it also seems to lead to harmful effects that were not fully reported in original publications. And this is from Dr. Peter Grosch. This is directly from his book. He goes, so the Roche, the company that pushed Tamiflu, but he says they have lured European governments into buying Tamiflu for billions of dollars, which I consider to be the biggest theft in European history. So billions of dollars has been spent on a drug that at best reduces symptoms by half a day and has hidden side effects that they hid that include psychiatric symptoms, increased rates of vomiting, and headaches, right? I mean, think of all the ways billions of dollars could be spent better. Just think how much better food you could supply schools, or how much more you could do with schools with billions of dollars. And instead, drug companies convince their governments to stockpile the crap for reducing symptoms by half a day. It's just so irritating. So let's get on to something, my approach to health. And let's talk about vitamin D, all right? And this is extremely important. So have you ever wondered why there's such a thing as seasonal illness? The cold and flu season. Why would viruses and bacteria come around during the fall and winter months? Well, they don't. That's a myth. They're always around us. The truth is we're exposed to viruses and bacteria every day of our lives, right? The thing determining who gets sick and who stays well is not the presence of these viruses, bacteria, or the air temperature. It's the state of our immune system. The air temperature, it drives me crazy, especially when you have a baby and everyone's like, oh, cover him up. He's going to get sick. He's going to get sick. What's going to make your kid sick is when you're giving them animal crackers and juice and sugar boxes and sodas and the crap food that is known to suppress the immune system. A little cold air doesn't make you sick, right? So in other words, it's not the seed, it's the soil. This has been shown to be true many times. Perhaps one of the best known studies was where they exposed everyone in a group to a cold virus. They gave them all the cold virus, but only those who were stressed developed the cold. So everyone gets exposed to the virus, but only people who were stressed got the cold. So what does that mean? So the state or function of our immune system is influenced by two main variables. It's the amount of stress in our lives. The more stress we have in our lives, the lower our immune system is. Stress reduces our immune system. The second part is whether or not we supply our immune system cells with sufficient amounts of essential nutrients they need to function. So our immune system needs good nutrition in order to function properly, right? If we don't get the good nutrition in our immune system, it can't function like it should, and our immune system goes down. So clearly, the amount of stress in our lives is not seasonal, right? It's not like, our boss is only a prick in the winter time, or you get less sleep in the winter, or life is just more stressful in the winter. Or, personally, I think the fall into winter is the best time of year. I love it. If anything, it's my least stressful time. But so why do we get more colds and flus in the fall and winter months? Well, it can't be. It's not because of more stress, and it's not because more flus and viruses floating around. It's because our immune system isn't getting enough of the nutrients it requires to function at optimal level. For some reason, we get less of an essential immune nutrient in the fall and winter. Well, what is that nutrient? Well, it's vitamin D. See, cold and flu season is indistinguishable from vitamin D deficiency season. As the days get shorter and days get colder, right? There's less time to get in the sun. We cover up. We hardly get any sun. What happens is the sunlight normally hits our skin. Our body produces vitamin D from that, but we're not getting that more. So the days become shorter and colder. We get less sun. We get less vitamin D. As our vitamin D goes down, our immune system goes down, and that leads to seasonal colds and flus. So as vitamin D level goes, so does your innate immune system. This is important to remember, innate immune system. We're going to talk about that in a bit. And especially the innate immune system produces innate natural antivirals within your body that kills viruses. So long ago, right, American flu experts, they fell in love with misacquired immunity, boosting antibodies of flu shots. So there's two types of immune systems, really. There's your acquired immune system and your innate immune system. So acquired immune system is you get exposed to a virus or bacteria, and then your body builds up immunity to that specific virus or bacteria. So if you ever come in contact with it again, you're immune to it. Your innate immune system is a generalized immune system that just protects you from any foreign invader, right? So it doesn't matter which strain of the flu it is or which strain of a cold rhinovirus it is, your innate immune system, if it's strong, kills it. It's not a specific antibody. It's not the specific acquired immune system. It's a generalized Marines type immune system. Ooh. Let's go to the next slide. So without vitamin D, the ability of the cell to respond adequately to pathologic and physiologic signals is impaired. So here's how this is how I like to explain the immune system. The immune system is way, way more complex than anybody can even comes close to understanding, right? The one thing I find is the more you learn about the human body, and the more you learn about anything, the more you'll realize you don't know, right? The human body is so complex. It's unbelievable how amazing your body is. I mean, right now, think about this. If I took all your blood vessels out and just put them in a line, they go around the world twice, right? You have hundreds of trillions of chemical reactions happening in your body at every second. There's so much going on. It's so complex. It's just absolutely amazing, right? So you have an immune system within your body. I like to think of my immune system as the Marines, right? Here's the Marines, a bunch of badasses floating around your body. And they're literally little cells that attack any foreign invader. And I call these little bastards the ISIS. So the viruses and bacteria are little ISIS bastards trying to get into your body and attack you and kill you. And your Marines is your immune system that kills these little bastards, okay? So taking vitamin D is like giving weapons to the Marines. So once your vitamin D levels are high and your immune system's up, your Marines are powerful and they kill these little bastards. If you're low in vitamin D and your immune system is down and you're eating sugars and you're lacking sleep and lacking of exercise and poor diets, then that's like giving weapons to these little ISIS bastards. And it's like taking weapons away from your immune system. And then this is when people get sick. All right. That's what you think of your immune system as a Marines. And you want to make lifestyle choices that give your immune Marines healthy, good weapons to kill the ISIS bad guys or bastards. Right. So the physiological effect of vitamin D lies in its ability to stimulate the innate immune system, and it also helps to moderate inflammation. We'll just say vitamin D have a broad range of actions against microorganisms, including bacteria, fungi, and viruses. So the vitamin D gives the Marines weapons to kill all these bastards. Vitamin D dramatically upregulated the genetic expression of your immune system that immediately attacks and kills viruses, bacteria, and fungus. See, this is very important because viruses that cause seasonal cold and flu differ every year. They're always different. Vitamin D, it boosts your innate immune system. It kills all of them. It doesn't matter if it's ISIS or any bad guys, right? Your Marines go kill those bastards because your innate immune system is up. So you'd think, right? If vitamin D deficiency is a cause of colds and flu, then countries with low vitamin D levels would have excess wintertime mortality, right? Wouldn't that make sense? So you would think, so is it vitamin D? Well, if it's low vitamin D, then countries that get lower amounts of vitamin D are going to have more flu-related deaths, yes? So what do the studies say? In Norway, which has the highest vitamin D levels in Europe, due to its, right, then you have Great Britain, which has low vitamin D levels. So you have Norway, high vitamin D levels, Great Britain, low vitamin D levels, right? Excess wintertime mortality is twice as high in Britain as Norway. So excess wintertime deaths is twice as high in the low vitamin D country. And this study, what they did, let's go into some studies on vitamin D, just like we did with the flu shot. So this is kind of a crazy study, actually, that they were allowed to do this. But they inoculated 834 males with live flu virus. They gave them, the flu virus in these two different spots in Russia during different seasons of the year. Compare them to placebo control. So what they found that was in the winter, 6.7% got flu symptoms versus 0.8%, right? In the one area. So in the wintertime, they're much more likely to get sick when they got injected with the flu virus. In this country, Krasnodar, 8% of the inoculated subjects developed fever in January, but only 0.1% did so in May. So in the winter, cold months with less sunlight and less vitamin D, 8% got sick. But in May, where they're starting to get more sunlight, only 0.1% got sick. It's crazy to think that they're just inoculating them with live influenza virus. I mean, that's a good thing they do that in Russia, not here, I guess. In 1990, blah, blah, blah. So in this study, what they did is they just exposed the athletes to sun. So if you get exposed to sun, you make more vitamin D. So the non-sun group, the low vitamin D group, had 50% more respiratory viral infections, 300% more days of absence, and 30% longer duration of illness. The sun exposure subject also had significant increases, and these are all immune factors, right? So the more studies showing that how beneficial it is to have elevated levels of vitamin D. So what is it, vitamin D? It's actually a steroid hormone, right? It's converted when sunlight hits your skin and your body produces vitamin D. It cannot be produced without sunlight, right? It's an essential vitamin, which means you need something from the outside to produce it. Extremely important is that vitamin D is in this form, vitamin D3 form, right? That's the natural occurring form. Vitamin D2 is often given in prescriptions, which is in synthetic form and should always be avoided. Never take D2 or ergocalciferol. So 2 large controlled studies in the 30s found that cod liver oil given to 185 adults for 4 months reduced the incidence of colds by 50%. Wow. The second study found that cod oil given to 1,500 adults reduced the incidence of respiratory infections by 30%. We suggest that the much higher vitamin D content in the 30s explains the results. Again, this is not my opinion. These are from the studies. That's good results. Very limited vitamin D passes through breast milk. As a result, many pregnant women and their offspring are vitamin D deficient. That's why one of the reasons I think it's so common for kids to get ear infections and colds and sick all the time. Pregnant women sufficient in vitamin D had lower rates of preterm labor. So pregnant women getting enough vitamin D had lower rates of preterm labor and preterm birth and lower rates of infection. The greatest effects were seen among women taking 5,000 IUs of vitamin D per day, pregnant women. That's one thing pregnant women are all asking me about, which prenatal should they be taking. Here's the thing. The reason you take a prenatal is because if you're deficient in folate, your baby can develop a neural tube defect. So if you're deficient in the essential nutrient, your baby can get sick. The problem is that by the 20th day, it's too late. The neural tube is closed. And a lot of times by the time a woman finds out she's pregnant and asks about taking a prenatal, it's too late. It's past the time. But vitamin D affects you for your entire pregnancy and through breastfeeding. That's the one I really highly recommend, vitamin D and a good omega-3 fat when you're pregnant. But any good nutrient should be taken before you're even thinking about getting pregnant, because you want to be sufficient in all the nutrients, because the baby's being made on the nutrients in your body. That's very important too. No adverse events were related to vitamin D dosing, so that's very important. So here's a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study where they gave children 1,200 IUs of vitamin D3, right? So 11% of the vitamin D group got the flu, 19% of the control group. That's a 42% difference. It's relative. We can't do that, right? We got to use absolute. The absolute is an 8% difference. That's 4 to 8 times better than what the flu shot get, and that's not including the healthy user effects. So that's much, much better. But that's only 1,200 IUs. Let's look at some more studies. So in this study, this is the same study. This is really cool. So less people got the flu, but here's something else that happened. In the same study, 4% of the vitamin D group had an asthma attack, whereas 23% of the control group had the asthma attack. That's an absolute, we can't look at that. The absolute difference is 19%. So this is a reduction of comorbidity, which shows not only did the vitamin D help reduce the flu, but it helped reduce asthma attacks, which is awesome, which makes perfect sense because the vitamin D affects so many things in your body. And if you're low on it, you can have all kinds of crazy symptoms. So the best way to look at it is not symptom based. It's just taking your deficiency in vitamin D and bringing it to sufficient, and you have really cool side effects like less asthma attacks. It's even more than that, which we'll get to. So in this study, 3-year trial taking 800 IUs of vitamin D day reduced the incidence of colds and flu by 70%. Holy shit, that's really, really good. But that was a relative difference, okay? The absolute difference was 17%. But that's only taking 800 IUs a day. After 2 years, they decreased it to 2,000 IUs a day, and the incidence of cold and flu was reduced by almost 100%. That's an absolute reduction of 100%. See, that's the thing. So they're getting a little bit of vitamin D. It was getting results. Once you're getting more vitamin D, adequate amounts, the results are absolutely freaking phenomenal. Think about that. That's so much better than the flu shot. And you have plans of less asthma and other good things. Oh, going the wrong way here. Next slide. Getting excited. So what are some of the symptoms of vitamin D deficiency, right? Getting sick, colds and flu, obviously, as you're going older. Being fatigued or tired. I've seen that with people who are just tired all the time. They have really low vitamin D levels. Muscle aches, low back pain, oftentimes low vitamin D. Hair loss, if you have slow wound healing. Bone loss, osteoporosis, strong bones, vitamin D is huge. Heart disease, cancers, diabetes, fibromyalgia. So many things are related to vitamin D deficiency, on top of a lowered immune system, more likely to get colds and the flu. So, like, industrial humans, we're almost completely devoid of vitamin D from sunlight, right? I mean, think about it. You wake up, it's dark. You go to work, you sit under these fake lights all day, and then you come home in the dark. How do you ever get sunlight? How are you going to make any vitamin D? Our nursing homes, right? They're just like prisoners in artificial lights all day. I mean, some may get outside, but not nearly enough. And then our kids, we're so damn afraid of the cold. They've got them bundled up like little mummies all the time. They hardly get any sunlight on their skin. And their vitamin D levels go down, and then they get sick in the wintertime. So who are the people that are most susceptible to be deficient in vitamin D? Well, infants, right? Little vitamin D passes through breast milk, and most mothers are deficient. So what we would do is, of course, my wife was taking vitamin D before, during, and while breastfeeding, and still takes it today. But we have put little drops of vitamin D and olive oil on her nipple before the little baby latched on. Older adults, as we age, our skin does not synthesize vitamin D as efficiently, so it's harder to make adequate vitamin D. Of course, people with limited sun exposure are low in vitamin D. People with dark skin, the darker your skin is, the more sun you need to produce vitamin D. So if you have dark skin in like Wisconsin, it's really, really hard for you to have enough vitamin D. If you have any sort of digestive issues, less vitamin D is absorbed. And if you're overweight, right? So if you have fat between your skin and body, your skin may produce a bunch of vitamin D, but a lot of it is sequestered or stuck in the subcutaneous fat, the fat on your skin, and it doesn't circulate in your body. So basically, if we just took a random sampling of people in the US and tested them, the overwhelming majority are going to be low in vitamin D, especially in the fall and winter time, aka cold and flu season. So taking all these factors into account, this is from the Vitamin D Council, we conclude a recommended dose of 5,000 IUs per day is about right for the average adult. So 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 for the average adult, especially in the wintertime. Kids should be getting about 35 IUs per day per pound. So like a 50-pound kid would get about 1,750 IUs, right? I'm going to explain this more in a second. So you can take less, right, if you're getting plenty of sunlight. In the summertime, I'll often go without taking vitamin D. But the fall, winter, spring, I don't miss it. And I'm a 200-pound guy. I often take like 5,000 one day, 10,000 the next day, 5,000. I seem to feel better when I'm getting closer to 10,000 wintertime. Make sure it's D3, right? It has to be D3, not D2. This is garbage. And vitamin D is much better absorbed when it's taken in a healthy fat like flax oil or olive oil. You see, vitamin D it's fat soluble. There's no point in taking any supplement if you don't absorb it, right? What's the point of taking a supplement if it just ends up in the toilet? Completely useless. You want to make sure you're taking your vitamin D with a fat or in a fat, a healthy fat. And a lot of cheap vitamin D is sold in unhealthy oils like canola or soy oil. Why would you ever pay for a supplement that gives you unhealthy oils? That's a really bad idea, right? The whole purpose of supplementing is to make yourself healthier. So make sure your D is in a good fat, a healthy fat. Can you take too much? It's damn near impossible. From Dr. Cannell, the Vitamin D Council, one of his quotes that I like is worrying about vitamin D toxicity is like worrying about drowning as you're looking for water in the desert. You have to work at it to be toxic. So I'd caution on taking a little too much as opposed to not enough. And you can always go and get tested. I mean, my thing is, the vitamin D testing, to get tested for vitamin D deficiency, I could buy about 3 years worth of vitamin D. So I just use my money to buy the vitamin D. So here's the vitamin D that I recommend. And this is a product that I made myself. And one of the biggest reason I have stuff made myself, and I trust very, very few companies, because unfortunately, supplement companies are not regulated at all. right? Some people like say, oh, this one's FDA approved. They're not. The FDA doesn't look at supplements at all. I know for sure because I made this product. So I could put any damn thing on the label I wanted, right? I wanted to make sure I had something really good to give myself and my pregnant wife and my family. And I have third-party testing. So a third-party test to make sure what they say is in there, right? And a good 5,000 IUs, right? And flax oil, which is a healthy omega-3 fat, costs about 11 cents per day. That's it, right? 11 cents per day, very expensive. And if you order it now, go get it right. I mean, just go to drsiz.com and use the code webinar20. You get a discount. So right now, get a discount, get on it right away. Adults, this is the way to go for sure. It's so inexpensive. You got a 6 months worth in one bottle, right? It's really small pills, really easy to swallow. I mean, it's crazy. Think about it. For 11 cents per freaking day, you can do something that massively improves your health and keeps your immune system up. You know, one thing, it's really fascinating how, like every year, people are like, oh, I've been bedridden, been sick for 4 days. I don't even know what the hell that feels like. Like when I get sick, I'm off a little bit. It's like, I'm just a little sluggish today. I don't know what it feels like to be just bedridden. So this is, it's just, to me, it's crazy not to when you actually just look at the evidence. For kids, I go with this one. This is one company I trust very much. And that's a liquid vitamin D in extra virgin olive oil. So each little drop is about 500 IUs. So you can be much more specific depending on the size of your kid. And again, if you use this code, you get a discount. I'm going to email you, should come really quick, a whole bunch of good information, and you can find where you can get this from as well if you're interested. And the thing is too, you don't have to get it from me, obviously. I mean, I'd like it if you did, of course, but if you get it somewhere else, just make sure it's D3, make sure it's in a healthy oil, right? Make sure it's really good. And the hard part is how do you know what the hell they say is on the label is actually in the product? It's good to be able to look at a third-party testing batch sheet. But this I know for sure. So that's why I'm very much trusting of it. But so here are the big 9 things you can do to be where everyone's getting sick around you. And you're like, man, I feel great. Right. And this is kind of how I feel every winter. It's like, I see people getting sick and complaining and this and that. I'm like, well, I feel really good. One thing is I'm always taking my vitamin D. Take your vitamin D, which we talked about. Number 2 is a good omega-3 fish oil. Just like most Americans are deficient in the essential nutrient vitamin D, most Americans are deficient in fish oil. And fish oil is huge for reducing inflammation, for helping your immune system, for helping your bones, for literally it's a part of every single cell and function in your body. It's one of the most important supplements you can take. And again, quality is everything. And this one, this is my product, so I know it's good, and I have third-party testing, so I know exactly what they say is in it. Is in it, right? It's extremely important. And then probiotics are huge for immune system. And maybe I'll email you my article on probiotics and how to pick a good one. If you go to my site, you can see the exact one I take and the exact one I give my kids. But you want to make sure the probiotics are vegetarian and non-dairy and non-grain based, right? If they're grown on dairy and grain, they're not nearly as effective as stuff grown on good food. It's kind of like cows, right? If cows are fed grains, they produce really unhealthy fats. If they eat greens, they produce very healthy fats. Probiotics are healthier depending on what strain it is and depending on what they eat, right? So the probiotics that I take and use, it's 9 strains of vegetarian-based probiotics that have all been shown to improve health outcomes in humans, right? Make sure you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables. Fruits and veggies keep your immune system high. Sugar brings your immune system down. Make sure you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables, right? Follow the innate diet. This is exactly how I eat. This is my secret, right? Just follow how I eat. I'll email you this. Check your email. I'll add this to an email so you get exactly what I eat. This is huge, huge, huge. If it's not in this list, you shouldn't be eating it. I mean, it's that simple. If you have to ask, you shouldn't be eating it. Very important. We talked about stress. Stress brings down the immune system. Don't stress about pointless shit, right? What's nice about this presentation is it gives me so much confidence that I don't stress about getting the flu or getting a cold ever, because I just know I'm doing the best thing for my immune system. For sure, I'm 100% confident I'm doing the best thing. That helps lower stress. It helps keep me healthier. And then I don't worry about pointless shit, right? Some people will inevitably send me hate mail about this because they just believe so strongly in the flu shot, even though the evidence goes against them. But I don't care. Right, you can send some hate mail. I actually find it kind of entertaining. But the point is, chill out, right? Life's really good. Get to exercise. Exercise, of course, is huge for pretty much everything, right? Positive exercise helps, but it really helps your immune system. Get adequate sleep, guys. So many people don't get enough sleep. It's almost glorified to, I only go on 6 hours of sleep a night, or I only need 5. It's like, well, that usually catches up on you. Sleep's extremely important. If you're really tired all the time, you don't need more coffee. You need to start getting more sleep. And then, of course, wash your hands. Right? It's just a good habit to wash your hands. It's a lot of things you touch on a regular basis where if there was like a way to see all the viruses and bacteria on it, you would be blown away. I mean, this stuff is everywhere. The tongs at the salad bar, the door handle in a public place, the chair you sit on in a public lobby that 1,000 people have sat on without it being washed. And then free stuff. Check your email. I'm going to send you the Innate Diet Guide. I'm going to send you recipes. I'm going to send you a whole bunch of really good stuff to help keep you and your family's immune system as healthy as possible. Now, I'm not promising you'll never get sick again. That's crazy, right? But here's what, I haven't had a sick day in about 11 years now. And there are times where I'm sick, but like I just, you don't get crushed. You just feel off. Like, I don't understand how some people are like, I've been bedridden for a week. That doesn't even, it's crazy. I just feel like stiff and achy, or, I'm always exercising. If I'm a little sick, I just get extra sore. You know what I mean? And a big, huge part of that is these really good nutrition to keep my immune system strong, as well as these other choices. So in my opinion, I would like to say evidence-based opinion, these are the best ways to prevent the flu this winter time, right? That's the best. I think the flu shot is a bad idea, and I would go with this. There's a whole lot of lines, and then let's get rid of that. But just go with these 9. And I really hope you guys found value with this. Obviously, I put a ton of time and a ton of effort into it. And the key is just educating people. I get asked about this a lot, and this is a way for me to get the information to as many people as I possibly can. So I really hope you share this with people, show it to as many folks as possible, because that's how, information is what gets you change. And the better, the more people we get good information to, the better. If you have any questions, make sure you ask. I try and answer every question I get. And if there's anything else you want me to talk about or present on, or things you want I could add, or anything, just let me know. I really appreciate feedback. And again, I really hope you found value to this. And if there's anything, just shoot me a message, and I'll do my best to answer for you.